great. So earlier we have talked about the fact that you are a technician for hospital equipment, and
Yes.
all of this, and we've talked about a few other things, but then we had a technical difficulty, so now we're pretty much gonna play catch up really quick. And then
Yeah.
also Sagi has mentioned that you have basically recorded all your stuff at home digitally, and then you've explained to him that you are actually using some ethnic musical instruments. So,
Yes.
and then what was the last thing that where you guys left off? If you wanna,
Yeah,
can
exactly
you
that.
remind me?
Where Robert started telling that flute was the first or the main instrument that he played after the piano.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so I come kind of from a family of musicians. My mom played violin, congos, piano, and sung, and my dad did guitar, so,
Mm-hmm.
I was very integrated in the musical world young. But, at that young age, you're kind of like, I want to find this out for myself, I don't want to be forced to do this. And when they forced me to do piano, I kind of got sick of it, as everyone does. And so I kind of just branched off. I remember, it was like second grade. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with, like, music class, where they kind of just, there's a whole room full of instruments, and you go around playing it, and the instructor kind of knows what you should play.
Mm-hmm.
And off the bat, I picked up a trumpet, and I was decent. I picked up a saxophone, I sucked. But in the flute, bam, it was weird how it just felt like, it was like an extension of the body, which you guys probably are really
I
familiar
know
with that
exactly how
feeling.
you feel. I know exactly how you feel. This is,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then,
it's-
it's just weird how it works.
it's an awakening.
Yeah. Where it's like, you pick this thing up and you can start playing on it. And you're like, okay, how am I doing this? Because you're a kid. You're like, I thought it took years of practice. Sometimes I think maybe it's in you, because in my ancestry line, I do have some, like, native in me. And I grew up in a place where it was very, like, shamanism was all around us. We always had folky instruments. And they were playing cedar flutes. It's like that Native American flute with that really rich sound. And I remember the day I heard that, it just made my soul, like, it felt like it just exploded out of my body. And I was a kid. This is like a weird feeling. And I was like, how can I replicate this so I feel it all the time, right? Not just when I'm hearing these elders playing these flutes. And then that's kind of where it split the path. I was like, all right, music class, I'll play, the instrument that I'm meant to play for class. But at home, I'm like, I want to learn this flute. I want to learn this flute. And then I was really fortunate enough to get a cedar flute in my hand young, and that's when it took off. Like, imagine a little boy in a forest playing on his flute all day. That's kind of how it was.
Like Link from The Legend of Zelda.
Yes, exactly. Except instead of an ocarina, it was a flute. And then, like I said, just that extension is just what keeps you going, and it's such a rejuvenating feeling. Like, it's so hard to put in words, and that's why I guess music is that other language, because we all can speak it to each other.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. And there's also, how you have the variety of music instruments, and they can be divided into families. And the German,
Yes.
they call those type of music instrument Blasinstrumente, which means music where you blow into. And that's, you've mentioned the piano. Jake here is playing the guitar. I play the tarbuka or the congos. Those are
Yeah.
instruments that you play with your hand.
Mm-hmm.
The hand is the
Yes.
extension of the body, whereas with a flute is you literally blow your life's energy, which is your breath, into an
Yes.
instrument that carries out and translated into sound. Yeah.
It doesn't get any more spiritual than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. That's it. Like, it's brilliant. It's weird. And then, oh man, and now we can get into all that where it's like, orchestrals. We hear all these, like you said, families of instruments coming together. Like, I remember the first time I heard classical music. In my mind, I was like, what the hell? Like, how can we have all these emotions at once? And like, I got all that goosebumps, on your arm, and that your hair on your neck rises.
Yes.
And then that's what led me down that path. It's crazy.
Yes. I am. Yeah. I remain speechless to that fact. The fact that it is true, because I know exactly how you feel. I've been there myself. I've done it, and that's exactly what it does to me. And yeah, I mean, I'm currently in the middle of a solo project, and
awesome.
At some point, I want to see if you and I could do something together. Once I finish this project, I'm thinking of actually, bringing some guests over. I'm going to finish the initial
that'd be
structure.
awesome.
I'm going to finish the initial structure, and I was thinking people like you, also people like Melissa, who was here with the
Singing bowls.
with the singing bowls, exactly.
The singing bowls, yes. Oh man, the Tibetan bowls are also a very magical item. It's amazing what humans can do across time, right? You look at all these things, and you can come across whatever direction you come from, but like we made like music from nothing if you think about it, right? So there's kind of I think a very spiritual aspect around that, even from like loincloth day where there's just people and tribes making instruments out of nature, and they were doing this thing
that is actually what I've noticed about that one song that you sent me that we are going to play here soon.
Oh yeah,
that's exactly what you did with the whole with the tribes and everything, because I remember listening to that track to the Norvish Forge.
The Norvish Forge,
Norvish Forge. Okay, so I said it correctly. Glad. I'm happy. So I've noticed that there's a lot of ethnic instruments, including some tribal singing of a sort. Yeah.
We can go into that sampling too if you want, because that was one of my earlier albums. I was very experimental with, I like how you're saying, the electronical digital world, but then I was like, you know what, I want to start doing this world live stuff in it too, to blend this synergy. And that's where I started getting into like open sources, and I found a lot of, those CDs of like different tribes chanting, throat singing, and I kind of made like a little collab where I combined like two different things, and it just made a beautiful, it was wild to me. Like here I can get some like Mongolian throat singing, mix it with African chanting, and they somehow fit. And these are two tribes across the globe.
Yes.
So it's like they were singing in perfect bars and measures before music theory even became a thing. And that's what I found phenomenal. That you can combine all these cultural worlds, and they knew. It's like it was a language. They somehow connected with something that just made it. It's inexpressible for sure, but like we feel it. And that's where I was on that. All right, music is something you have to feel. It doesn't just sound good, right? What can you do to make it feel? Like it's like if our DNA was a timeline and we can reconnect with whoever played before us, because it's like a timeless thing. It's like a relic. I don't know. There's no other way to word it.
Yeah. It is a relic of humanity. I mean, whatever it is that you put on paper, or in our case, a digital digital audio workstation.
Yeah. So I'll throw in the... finish, please.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just going to say that I heard a lot of really good influences coming from you. I mean, most likely it is something that you, and in your current age and your generation, that is something that's been made available to you recently. It could be that it was something that made itself available to you earlier in your teenage years or so. But at least that's how it affects me, and I'm 41. Now, I'm born in 1979.
Whoa, man, you don't look it at all.
Well, thank you. Actually, I kind of do. Those pictures are a little old on my Facebook profile. But basically,
he doesn't look 41 years old at all. He looks at the latest 40.
You're too kind. He is too sweet. You're too kind, sir. So as I was saying, I heard a lot of Enigma. I heard of a lot of like, what was it? Deep Forest.
I remember.
Yeah.
Too,
it's like Infected Mushroom too. Was another name.
Infected Mushroom. Our boys from back home. Mm-hmm. One of them is actually from my hometown in Israel, but I'll get to that later. But
I felt one. It came to me one word when I listened to the track that you sent that we are going to play pretty soon, and the word is ayahuasca.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like breadcrumbs, right? And you guys are slowly picking up the breadcrumbs and finding out the key. Really? Yeah, that was a good catch.
Yeah.
Let's tell people what ayahuasca actually means to some of those that don't know, such as myself.
we talked about it.
Well, I think we did talk about it, but I just forgot.
It's the juice of nature. That's a plant that you distill the essence of, and it's you burn it. I think I'm not familiar with the process itself.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
go into a ceremony and you drink it. And
Yes.
the ceremony is really important. The ceremony around
you
it.
had a journey over there in South America, I think it
Yeah.
was.
Many people do it in South America. I did
Yes.
it in
Yep.
in Spain.
Ah, that was in Spain.
That was
what you
in
told
Spain.
me. Okay.
Yeah, just before my son was born.
Okay.
And it was a retreat
Excellent.
that hosted ayahuasca ceremony.
Ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds delightful. It really does.
Yeah.
It sounds
They're
like
actually starting to spread a lot more.
And
So
to
it's
me,
good, like, a lot more countries.
yeah,
really?
yeah. It's all over. It's very big here in the States. It's very big in Israel because the
Okay.
Israelis, you know how they travel to South America after the army.
Right.
But it was unfamiliar to me when I lived all these years in Germany. And when I experienced the ceremony, which was really strong on my physical being, to me, the ayahuasca came as sound. That's actually what it was to me. I completely connected ayahuasca with the sound of this universe. And you've mentioned also before something that triggered me to mention the movie Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas.
If you
Oh
guys
my
are familiar
God, my
with it.
favorite movie.
So there is
So
that
good,
symphony
yes.
of life, you know, that's the music theme that each story, which goes on a different lifetime, sometimes even in a different planet, portrays that the story unfolds differently, but the essence of the story, that you can call even the DNA of the story, is the symphony, which is the music being played out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was called the Cloud Atlas Sextet because it was done by the composer guy, and like that was a beautiful scene. He dreamed about it, and the guy's like, "No, man, I made this," and then like you said, across time, it connected all these people. Where I think they left it open in that movie, where you
Let me
weren't sure
ask
if the actual reincarnations.
Is this something that I should be hearing if I did not see the movie?
Well, it's not,
we're not
it's
really
not
spoiling
gonna,
too much.
it's not gonna, take anything away from the viewer. Actually, it even might enhance.
Enhance.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
So they have a clear
deep
message
meaning.
of how music and art and everything just kind of blends together or something?
Oh
Or-
yes.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
what they do?
and you might have to watch the movie like 3 times because it is like a 3-hour movie. And like you said, now that you know a little bit of what it's about, you'll catch it as it's coming instead of being like, "What's going on? We're following 7 different storylines here."
Should we watch this movie today, Sagy? I'm just
You
curious.
guys should, yes, have a movie night with that. It'll blast your mind.
Is it worth it?
It's definitely worth it.
Okay.
It's definitely worth. I'm telling you, if you didn't watch it, it's definitely worth watching.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's-
I'm not the guy that watches a movie more than once recently, but
So-
maybe
Yeah.
I watch it again. But the thing of the movie is that what brings me back to the conversation, and with again to the spirit of ayahuasca, they call it like the grandmother. To me,
Yes.
to me, the world is expressing itself. It's in a constant expression. Evolution, even, it's an expression, It's something that is continuing to unfold,
Right.
and you can structure it. It has a structure. It has a physical structure, how it looks like. It has colors, and it has a sound. And this is the basic things of this reality, It's before there was humans walking on Earth. It's before probably even the animals have developed. There was a sound. And the sound is when the wind is blowing through the trees, when a wave is crashing on a boulder,
Yes. Yeah. Man, it's like, you bring up another valid point because I'm trying to remember the artist. There was a really great artist you guys would love. He paints ayahuasca like imagery, and it's like you just said, it's a very similar theme that all these artists paint, and it's just like that, like the colors, the shapes, they're trying to like paint sound, if you will. And that's just beautiful because then you have this thing called, I think it's like synesthesia. I think it's heard about that, where your senses kind of cross, and it's like a weird, it happens a lot on psychedelics where you might like, oh, I smell purple, or I taste
yes,
distance,
you
you
can
know, it's a
connect
really
the colors.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's what they're describing, where it's like in this space, wherever you want to call it, like this earthly, gaudy place you link to, it's very different than here. Like a lot of would call it it's of another dimension because stuff isn't the same. You can be like, oh, well, I walk around here on 2 feet and I'm looking at the color blue, But in there, none of that would make sense. You're just like a brain in a fish tank floating around in like nature-esque fractal designs, and you're like, but you're still retaining a you, and that's why people love ayahuasca, because with that we can go into the science and spirit of it, because believe it or not, early in my college days I did study ethnobotany, and it was a very popular subject back then, where you find out why it's so hard to begin, where how it works. So, with ayahuasca, it's basically DMT and an MAOI, right? They use like a cappy vine that has the enzyme that lets DMT work, because we all know if you just consume DMT, normally nothing happens, right? You need to have that, I think the MAOI stands for like a monoamide exhibitor, so it shuts down your body's ability to break it down, so you have this miraculous trip. And now the $1 million question, like Wade Davis and a lot of these like professors ask, is how does a shaman in the middle of a forest of billions of trees know to connect these two plants that do not grow close to each other? The Amazon forest is like New York City of plants. Yeah. And so they're like, how do they know? And when they ask these shamans, they're like, oh, the plants told us. Gaia told us, for translation purposes. Yeah. And then that's where they're like, whoa. And that was the first time I think science kind of met spirit again. And, this whole thing across history is they used to be united, and we don't know why they separated. But I think it was that moment again where it spooked a lot of these like anthropologists and botanists, and it kind of just brushed away. Where that should have been the most curious point, where it's like we were at this point where we were forging a bridge between the two again, and it was very curious.
Yeah, it's beautiful what you say. Cool. It's really true. Yeah, and it's really, really true. And I think these times that we're experiencing right now, with chaos and conspiracies and what real and what not real, virus, all of this contraction and separation that we're experiencing right now is actually to lead us again back into unity. And this is the bridge that you've mentioned that connects again that deep wisdom that comes. It's almost like a gut feeling. You just know it. Your brain doesn't know how to put the numbers behind it, but you just feel the truth in it. Between that and the brain, the so-called cold analytical experience, which in the end comes to a knowledge, all this knowledge and we started this podcast today again by acknowledging the technology that we have around us that enables us to do all of that, and this is because we went through the knowingness process, which is going through trial and error and understanding, okay, this is how it works, and then what's the next step, this 1 and 0 movement, and we've made it to this day where it's almost coming back to kicking us in the butt, where it's, where we speak about, okay, machines taking over the world. We already come to the dark side of it, and now we are allowed to connect the dark, unexplained wisdom of the unknown of the spiritual, you can say, with the science that brought us to the humanity that we are today. And there's so much good in us, there's so much beauty of humanity.
Yeah, the potential is there. The potential is there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you're good. So I just loved how you put it. It is like a double-edged sword, they say, right? Like technology can do marvelous things, but then in the hand or the mind, let's say, of someone that's more ego-driven, right, it can be bad. Like, we're building bombs that can decimate land masses, right? It's like there is that, and this is why we use that word duality, which I love, because it's like you said, we seem to have this dual aspect of being human, right? It's almost like we got a dual being within us all. Like that's what they call it, the twin flame or twin soul DNA, that double helix.
I'm laughing because
Kundalini.
Yeah, have you listened to any of our prior podcast?
I think I was listening a little bit today.
To be honest and say no, it's okay.
It's okay if you say no.
Be honest and say no, and
but
because
the reality is
the reality is that we are talking about duality almost every podcast.
Look, we talked about we talk about duality and some of the geometric shapes that you are talking about right now. Yeah. And that's the reality is that we've had these conversations almost many times, like in the past, and I'm thinking it sounds like it sounds like you belong here, Robert.
Belong here,
Yes, it's like that's why I love taking a moment to just like breathe because like, holy shit, of all the things like you were talking about, all this chaos, all this drama, but like it's bringing these little bridges together that I truly think, when you unite with the right souls, it's like you put your finger in the pool, right? And it starts as a ripple, but eventually just increases to fill the whole pool. And that's what we're doing right now, whether we know it or not. It's kind of like we can believe in that universal push, but I think if we all are directly connected via this energy source, right, it is going to link up these like minds because, I'm not sure if you guys know about the collective consciousness thing, which it's kind of been proven where if enough like-minded people get together and do something, the outcome is like 100%.
Yes.
Whether it's ethereal, metaphysical, or physical. Like look at all the technological, spiritual things we've advanced because people got together and they're like, yeah, let's do this, It's like a test of time, if you will.
You're right. You're 100% right. And I've been talking a lot with Callie, with my wife, about that, one of the, again, the dualistic side of the double side of the coin here is, on one hand, we have gone through strong separation recently, and we've been asked to isolate ourselves, social distancing, all of the stuff which brings us to be more individualized,
Yes.
more, looking also into ourselves and what's important to us, and avoiding contact with each other.
Reconnecting
With
Yes.
ourselves. I believe it's one of the greatest things that happened right to humanity in many, many years.
Yes.
One of them is,
I love that.
especially sex, which of course I love it.
Oh,
but honestly,
Yes.
we are not honoring sex anime. As people
Right,
just
yeah.
going around and doing it, which is great, but you don't understand that you forget that this is the highest energetical exchange possible between
yes.
humans.
Yes.
And you just
Yeah.
go and you do it in the car, and there's no, we took out the love out of it. And sex
Yeah.
right now is also, we are very separated from each other.
Sex is ceremony worthy. It is a
Yep.
ceremony.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it has to. It is a ceremony because there's something just so sacred about it. It's all of that energy exchange. Never mind
It's
all
the
the
union
physical.
of two souls, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's the union of two souls, but in such depth, kind of like just literally entering each other's chakras.
Each other.
Yes,
Yeah.
beautifully said. Wow.
Entering each other's chakras. I mean, you are connecting both on a spiritual and on a physical type of level that creates a lot of friction in
yes.
the pattern.
It leaves an imprint
Yep.
in the other one's pattern.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
yeah. So we really let's stop for a second and acknowledge that and honor that and appreciate that. So I'm happy that we are now experiencing a separation because we are forced to also look at that. The other side of the coin is that we don't gather. All the
Right.
clubs are closed, so people can't have just random sex. Great, but people don't gather and
Yeah.
express love and express happiness. People don't do it as much right now. And you've been talking about how much, it's each of us is a light bulb, but when you put many of us together, it's
It's a lot of light.
a beacon.
Yeah.
It's an amazing
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a laser. And this is missing right now because people don't come together and celebrate in happiness and in love together.
I just wish people sometimes saw the potential of achieving that level of it's not power, that level of magnificence in unity that is simply made completely 100% manifested. So, tell us about the track we just heard. Tell us about what we just heard.
All right, yeah. Well, it's a unique case for that album because, I try and like keeping it in chronological order, like record it straight. But for that song, I kind of took a pause because I felt that plateau, we all feel it in anything. And with music, it's a very frustrating thing. You're like, like, how can I continue this story? And so I took a little break, if you will. I cleared my head, did some breathing exercise. And I have a little, there was a pen with vapable, DMT, if you will, that 15-minute flash you can get. And so I remember I went outside. I went like under a tree. This was back in like Florida, so it's a little different there compared to Colorado. And I just I got into that space, took a couple of the the hits, if you will. I entered that realm, and then it's kind of like this. That's why I called it the Norvish Forge, because what happened is I was in this very fractalic machine place, and that was weird, because usually you get that stuff with like psilocybin, not DMT. So I was like, all right, we're gonna go with this, and like. You kind of just like buckle in and go for the ride, and it was like a beautiful like conveyor belt of machines, and these little things with like one eye were walking around, and like it's weird how like you guys were talking about there's like this language going on that you don't understand but you can feel, so it's like a visible language, right? And then they were like Norvs is what the word I can understand at the time, because I have no idea what the hell's going on. I was like like there's this gibberish sound. And they were making this beautiful, like, factory out of, like, fractal shimmering bars of energy. And, like, the sound I heard was, like, a mix of machine but jungle. So it's like how you guys described before. It's almost like a beautiful electronic forest where you have this digitally mechanical thing that seems really organic. And you're like, how's this possible? In our world, something technological is stationary, right? It doesn't really fluidly move like a tree that can dance in the wind, right?
Have you been reading my diary? Have you been reading my diary?
Maybe.
I completely understand what you're talking about, and I'm actually on my concept albums. There is something in the story that's going to follow the CD that does talk about a digital life form that is very organic to its Earth.
Oh man, that's brilliant! It's such like a connection.
Wow.
Man, it's weird, right?
I swear to God, it's like you've been reading my diary.
Well,
it's almost like,
remember what we spoke about some time ago? We mentioned the mass consciousness, or we mentioned that cloud
Right.
of intelligence that is out there that each and every one of us is tapping into on a daily basis. And what we do is that some of us that are like going beyond, going to another realm, open-minded, like to explore, name it as you will, we are just, downloading information that is accessible for everybody, but not everybody has reached that compartment, for example, or that folder, and made that download. Just maybe a few that made that download, But that's also how something become real in this reality, is when more and more people download it and start to agree with the truth of it.
Yes. Oof. That gives me chills. Because it's true. It's like you said, like, we all may not be running the same software, but we do get the same data, and it depends on who's running what software that can obtain and use that data, right? And I think it's beautifully put. Like you said, if enough people confirm that with one another, then you're like, whoa, are we all tasting divinity right now, and it's a thing? And then I think that's enough to motivate a lifetime and generations, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Wow, this is heavy stuff. It's the soul, it's the mainframe, it's the operating system.
Yeah.
It's what's inside. It's so deep. So sorry, I'm like 2-3 thoughts behind.
No, it's fine, man.
But
That's
basically,
why we have these beautiful moments.
yeah, behind your conversation. But in either case, I mean, it's just fascinating. And this movie that you were talking about, Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually very much looking forward to watching that movie. And you say it's a 3-hour movie, so
It's
like 2 hours and 40 something. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty up there.
Yeah, but it really goes in like it goes in a heartbeat. You don't even feel that
Yeah,
it goes
you won't
by.
know.
Because it's the different parallel stories, and then they are like mixed together and interwoven together, and that's the idea. And none of this it's not like they give you the information and they tell you this is what it is, but if you open up yourself, you realize that this could be very much what we call different reincarnations.
Yes.
You could like incarnate yourself in a different story and play a different role, but the essence of the story, the lekach בעברית, the lesson, what you need to take from that story is repeating itself in different realities, dimensions, lifetimes,
Yep.
And there's a lot to take from each story. This is why we are in a repetitive, what the Buddhists or what they call the dharma, the cycle of life, the wheel of life,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many lifetimes you go through a certain wheel, and the idea is, and you can let go of the wheel. That's what the Buddha did. He was enlightened, and he could let go of the wheel and then turn it completely one way around, and then continue to a different story, a different wheel, a different reality,
Right.
Yeah.
That's heavy stuff. That's pretty good, man.
Right. It's like there's no words.
Yeah, there are no words. I'm actually looking forward to working with you eventually. I want to see what we can do together, because then I've noticed that you are posting quite a bit of stuff on your Facebook page.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, the arts and stuff?
Yeah, I saw some stuff, I think, that was accompanied by music, that's some form of animation.
A company? I'm trying to remember too. I use so many different things now and then. You said it uses animation with music?
It's just a weird animation type looking video with music in it, and that's it. And everything looks very psychedelic.
Yes, a lot of that is actually, you guys hear Mandelbrot is a phenomenal, or Mandelbrot is another one, where it's like this is where it's going to get another mind fuck for you guys. You use numbers and coding, right? And it'll make a shape. Now, I have like a genius coworker. He's the one that like can dive deeper into this, because he knows like math like another. So you plug in like weird numbers that could be like, sacred geometry, some 369, or even Pythagoras like formulas, and it makes these freaking amazing shapes and forms. Like, how the fuck is this a cell? We plugged in the formula for a rectangle, right, or some, just for an example, and it makes something that looks like a cell in atoms.
Wow.
And you start running like this data site, and that's why a lot of the famous people use it with their music, because it just adds that extra layer, right? You're looking at a visual mind warp of a digital world, but it looks so organic, and then the music just sells it, and then it's a beautiful program. It does take a lot to kind of like learn. That's why I stopped. Like I opened it a couple times. I made a couple worlds. I'm like, I'm not ready for that. It's a whole digital enigma on its own. But that's what a lot of that visual fractal you would see, where like you just see all that geometrical pattern zooming in and out, and it's very trippy in a way. Yeah, it's a lot of that stuff. And then I just like combining senses. So that's why I put music with it.
Well, I mean, music is an inseparable language of our universe. Yeah. It's emotion displayed through vibrations.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's the key.
The key to it's kind of it's a I don't know. It's almost like a spiritual form of wave that takes part in something great of activating this entire geometrical jungle that we're talking about.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
It has it's a special energy. You see what I'm saying? It's a special energy that is unique to itself. That's music. That's how I see it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well put.
An energy with a new, a different signature.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me, it's the soul.
It is the soul.
Yeah.
It's definitely the soul.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely composed of the soul.
Yeah. And the music played, the sound is created when the soul is playing itself out or playing the expression of itself out through our human physical body.
Yeah.
Because the
It's
body
just
is
strange.
just the body is the machine. If you look at nature, nature has all the answers. If you look
Yes.
at insects, they are emotionless machines. At least this is what they show. They are programmed to do 2-3 things in life, and this is what they do.
Right.
And they don't think about it. There's no bad and there's no reflection. There's no reflection.
Right.
This should be done. This shouldn't be done. This is okay. This is not okay. No, that's like tuck, 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 tuck. They are like machines,
Right.
Right. And we come from that, actually. Evolution is, we all come from that same fractal, evolving and enveloping and developing. So the physical body is like the highest, and especially the human physical body, is the highest expression of that machine, of that organic machine of nature, We are the top, we are the top expression. But still, without the spirit that runs through us, the soul that runs through us,
we're just a vessel.
We are, the physical body is the vessel, and then the spirit goes through it, and the expression is music. You can really symphonize it. You can write it down.
It's like our spirit is our pilot for music.
Beautiful.
It pilots our body to create these vibrations that then turn into such a unique energy that gets absorbed by the ears of others.
Yes. Oh, that's deep. It's so weird how this fits, because I'm going to share something with you guys right now that's going to blow your mind, what you were just talking about. There was a time where after music, I dove into another deep session. This one was just mentally, kind of like yogic meditation, if you will. And these words came to me, which was timeless mind in a vessel sublime. And so I was like, that has to fucking be something. And you guys just fucking nailed it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the title right there. We just gave it the title. Say it again. Say it one more time.
A timeless mind in a vessel sublime, It's just because it's what it seems, right? What's in the seed of our body, the soul, is timeless. And Cloud Atlas made that point kind of cool, where it has a lot to learn on this journey that can be 10 years, 10,000 years, right? Mm-hmm. But then the body is what will decay. But as long as you combine that, so you said you could be happy today as shit knowing you're going to die, right? I think this is that other separation we have, where it's a fear of death that makes people, think twice, where it's, I like that one saying where it's everyone has 2 lives. The second one begins when you realize you only have one. Because that is when you remember, holy shit, we're in this ride. We got to fucking ride it. And, it's sublime because it is. It's we're here now. What could we do with that amount of power, right? In this vessel that's crumbling and decaying, but the mind is no, man, go, go, go. You got to find this out. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's a weird synergy, and it's a weird sensation that I know a lot of people have that too, where you're just sitting in that silence and you realize you're not alone. And that's where I think a lot love finding that beauty with meditation. When you get deep enough, you just feel that connectedness to the earth around you, to everything. It's not just this body floating around in space, right? As miraculous as that is, gosh, you can look up at the stars at night and you're holy shit, how lucky, right? It's just, the universe is ineffable, and here we are. We created music, we created clothes. We're such beautiful, creative beings, and the time may stop one day, but not internally. And I just love how you guys brought all that centerfold, and it's just it just leaves you in awe.
The things of which you speak only appear in my mind as thoughts.
Yes.
And that was very, very deep. That was very deep, and not to mention that, it's I don't know, I just kind of find it weird. Well, first of all, congrats for having the courage to truly speak your mind like that, because these are some heavy subjects. Again, things that people don't like necessarily to think about, to talk about on a daily basis, but they always think about it. That is a very good skill.
Well, I love what you guys do too with this, being raw, because if anything, it may it may strike fear because people have to think about it, but at the same time, we're all on the same journey in different ways. It kind of gives them confidence in itself. Like I said, we may have this courage now. Someone could be listening to this and like, holy shit, like, yes, someone else agrees with what I'm feeling. And then it's like a domino effect. We can just reverberate off each other and send this synergetic symbol like, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to fail, because what is failure? It just means you have more to learn. And then it just gives people that inspiration to not give up yet. Like, that's why I think right now, you guys mentioned it. It's just, we're on a trial. Like, fucking shit hit the fan on this globe. But, it's going to prove itself in the end because look what we got now. Look what we're coming out. We're like climbing out of Dante's Inferno, right? Like layer by layer, peeling away, seeing what's at the source. And I think the minute that happens, it's like the Unity game again, right? We do a cycle. We're back now on that. We're all on this ride together. Let's help humanity get to that next point, because I think it's incredible how you guys mentioned it's all a cycle, right? And like how the Buddhists touch it. It's supposed to be this. I think we are at that level where this could be our apex, but I think there's also a next step, and maybe that's the next dimension, right? And so what if we're just preparing for that transition, and that's what we're kind of figuring out now. We have all these different paths. We're facing a great illusion of separation, but there's going to come a time where we bring it all together again, and we all walk each other home. And it's a beautiful thing to imagine.
Yes, it's really beautiful. Yeah, and once we are there, we're going to be able to look back and to understand that this time was necessary in order to bring us to that kumbaya, whatever you want to call it. You just this,
yes.
Just that, and you've mentioned about failing. In the grander scheme of things, or when you are acknowledging that your spirit is timeless, then you understand that even failure is not bad. On the contrary, it's something that is supposed to be there to build you up. It's like you imagine nature, Mother Gaia, being sad about all the creatures who are dying, and they are dying every second. There's death on Earth,
Yes.
And of course, Mother Gaia feels for it, but Mother Gaia is the mother of all of us, and she understands this is necessary for life to proceed, to continue. We have to grow through the death. We have to go.
Yes.
In every creation is actually involved destruction. And allow me a few more minutes. Yeah.
Please.
When you want to create something, you are going through the process of destruction. Imagine an artist that wants to paint a picture.
Right.
Yeah.
It has a beautiful white canvas and colors, and all of them are perfect. They are untouched. It's beautiful. And then suddenly he starts destroying that. He mixes the colors, he stains the canvas. It's a destruction process. He destroys something beautiful, something pure that is there, and he starts mixing it and changing it, but in the end, and only in the end, it becomes a masterpiece.
Ooh. Yes. And here we all are, the sculptures, the masterpiece.
The masterpiece. Wow.
Yeah.
The masterpiece.
Yeah.
Shemra podcast.
Shemra podcast. The
Oh my
podcast
God.
will be the masterpiece. Yeah.
Okay, so up until recently, we have been going with Tachlis, which is a word in Deutsch, in German, and Empower Talk is the name of the show. However, Sagy and I have actually been discussing on changing the name and finding a good name for the podcast.
Yeah.
So I think Masterpiece is definitely...
I was thinking it's definitely the name for this episode.
Or you were thinking more along the lines of the episode name?
Yeah.
Or Masterpiece Talk? Or...
Masterpiece Talk. I like the word. I like the word empower, because what I'm doing now, and this is why I believe every person should, as Jake told you, it's amazing how you express your truth. This is so important that each of us expresses his truth, his and hers truth right now, because the entire truth consists of each individual's point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's, you can look at the sun. Every ray of the sun is individual and is important to enlighten. And each of these rays makes the sun to be what it is.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's like now I have something to look forward to in the morning tomorrow. That sun and its rays, man. We're the mile high. We're so close to it.
Yes.
Brilliant.
We are mellowing down.
Yeah. It's definitely a mellow down type of moment here. Sagy and I were actually removing the chairs, and we're going to be sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
So basically, with that being said, Sagy, you said you wanted to talk about something?
Well, I would say
today,
definitely something now that when Robert said, I'm looking forward to tomorrow to the sun, and the basic yoga exercises that I don't know how you are translating it into English, but this is the greeting of the sun, the greeting of the sun. And this is something that I've developed a really strong and basic relationship to the four elements. And I'm doing more and more, incorporating it more and more in my daily life. And one of them is definitely the welcoming of the sun first thing in the morning. Oftentimes I wake up before sunrise. So there is that thing that I'm doing. And another one is coming more and more closer to the ground. So we are now sitting on the ground. We literally moved our chairs away and we are sitting on the ground. In my home, everything is on the ground. We eat on the ground. We sleep only on mattresses. There are no sofas, no chairs. Everything is down level. And again, this is the four elements: the fire, the sun, and then the ground, which is the earth. And then we have the water. And I moved into drinking only water. I don't drink any water and tea. And then the air that we breathe, and talking about Corona, the air is like very vibrant right now. People are trying to avoid air or trying to put a mask on air.
Yeah.
And air, coming back to how we also started this special podcast today, or this episode, is the spirit of life. And we spoke about the flute and how, again, going back to the spirit that is running through our body, which is a vessel, and creates a sound through that blowing through in our vessel,
Yes. You're making me re-fall in love with the flute again. And it's just been 10 minutes since I touched it. It's weird, man. I just want to praise right now, how optimal you are, where you're just combining these elements. It's every so often across time, have you guys ever heard of the term alchemist or alchemy?
Yes.
Or even read that book that was kind of written in that direction?
Yeah.
I fully believe before, they divided it and made, this is chemistry. Alchemistry is like what you just said. You take these basic elements. It's basically like the whole energy is not created or destroyed, right? You're taking one thing and creating something else with it. And, that expanded into a lot of things we see and do today. But I feel like the very archaic way what you're talking about is when you reconnect with the sun, whether it's sun gazing. I've sun gazed in Florida. Well, it's easier there than here. You got to kind of time it out and go drive up to break that mountain view, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from sun gazing to the sun to drinking pure water, either from a runoff you trust, or you make it yourself with a distiller and add your own elements, and then just breathing exercises, you create this synergetic press, I call it, in the mind, where it starts teaching you things. And this is where I'm not sure how much time we have to keep diving deep, but before I moved here, I got into a little bit of alchemy, and I think through this method of union and a deep meditation drive, I was basically taught how to brew this mixture, which is really strange. We can go on to the scientific details about it, but I'm not sure if you guys heard of ORM, or it's more like ORMUS, the orbitally rearranged monatomic elements.
Mm-hmm.
This is like this beautiful, or a lot of people call it monoatomic gold because it turns to this white, beautiful powder. And all you do is use water, salt, and like an acid breakdown, like either sodium carbonate or lye. And it's fucking miraculous. Like I'll show you guys a video I took where I proved it. You know, you just have this tin of distilled water, because you have to make sure it's really clean water. You have the tin of your acid water mix, and then you make sure you dissolve the salt, and you mix them together, and when you swirl it, it gains mass. It was on a scale, it gained mass. So in these two vessels that have a substance straight, like as is, it creates something else. To me, I was like, that's beautiful beyond like what you can imagine in alchemy. The mind screw of this all is, in ancient Egypt, they did this. They found notes where, like, when they looked into Cleopatra's milk, is what she called it, it was a similar formula because they used soda ash, which we know soda ash is when you burn wood, with their water in the Nile. And we know the Nile has a crazy concentrate of minerals, and bam, they made that stuff. And now,
wow.
I can share with you guys, too. I've been consuming this stuff for about 3 years. It definitely does something where I don't know, it's like science can't confirm it yet. Even like other alchemists I've tried to connect with can't really explain. But it's like what you were talking about when you connect with these elements, right? You're there. So now I think this could be an excellent way to just spread this out there. You're like, you know, if you guys try this stuff, you consume it for about 2 weeks and you just see what it does to your psyche and your body. Some people, it flushes them out if you have too much toxins. But for the optimal form, you know, someone like say you drink only tea and water, you meditate, you breathe, usually it has this amplifying effect. So it's like, this is where it can get double-edged. So like if you're feeling down, it can make you feel worse. But if you're feeling excellent, you know, in tuned, it gives you that ride where then you can also meditate easier. I found like dreams have become way more lucid. And it's just this beautiful molecule you make from combining salt water and sodium carbonate, you know, or just some other acid form. And bam, alchemy. And I think it just ties well with what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah, it's the reconnecting with who we are. You know, it's when you are detox yourself, when you're focused, when you're getting down back to the elements, to the basics. And you've mentioned it would either take you, if you are too much in depression or in negative thoughts, it would take you deeper in there. If you are on the other side, if you're on the positive thoughts, on the higher vibration, it would take you there. In the basic of it, it's the reconnection that we have with our own selves, opening the channels to the wisdom, you know. When we do something to the body, we do it automatically to the mind and to the spirit at the same time. So detoxing is not only the detoxification of the physical body, the mind also goes through a similar expression, you know, and the spirit itself. And when we have less, this is why we use this term less is more. When we have less of this unnecessary outside effect, so to say, we become more. We are more connected with the truth of what resonates within ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That was really good.
It's like, that's why I think fasting is an important thing that I think more of the world needs to pick up. Because, like, one thing I noticed is when you fast, it's like you said, you just learn that moment. You're like, actually, you know, lesser is more in an aspect. We don't need, you know, I think the Western world's become a very materialistic, gluttonous society, right? I'm like 4 meals a day. I'm like, you're like, come on, I can eat a rice padding and water and fine if you really think about it, right? Like, you don't need all these excess calories if you're not doing anything with it. Now, athletes, if you're swimming a 4K, you're going to be consuming a lot of energy, but for the normalcy, you know, I've realized, like, on days that I fast, I feel good. And I'm like, all right, so I have nothing in my body. Why do I feel good? And it's just that weird, you know, there's got to be something about that where, like you said, we need less to realize it's actually more. You know, there's a bigger picture.
Yeah.
When we're not, like, overstimulating the body, over making the mind work. Because I think overconsumption could lead to that lethargy, right? Like, your body's working really hard to break all that down, and your mind doesn't have that time to just be like, whew, I can breathe, right?
Yeah. I think this is something that is worth mentioning, is how much the physical body, and especially the stomach, the digestion takes, how much energy does it cost the body. So people think, okay, I need to consume food, so I can make energy, but there's a lot of energy that the body needs in order to dissect, to do the alchemy process of whatever it is that you put inside of it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's worth remembering because it's not necessarily that you need to eat more. I would go as to say that 40% of the energy that you are producing in the food process goes to the food process, the digestion process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have the waste and then all of that. Yeah. You're not left with much energy actually out,
Yes.
This is why food, we also say that it's a heavy energy, right? We also connect the earth as a heavy energy. And air, for example, is almost like the opposite side. It's the more lighter energy. It's the energy that doesn't involve a lot of process in it, a lot of waste, and that's something that is also worth mentioning, that humans are interconnected with trees.
Yeah. Oh.
We breed tree and the tree breed human. Yeah?
Yeah. Yep. It's like a symbiotic relationship.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
It's a total symbiotic relationship.
If you put both on a scale and you draw and you draw the energy movement between a man and a tree, you would notice that it's like the H shape or the infinity symbol.
And now we're getting to that layer.
Yeah.
It's also completely
it's duality
inseparable from duality. Exactly.
Yeah, it's the two cycles that are connecting together, right? Each human is a cycle, tree is a cycle, and then there's a flow of energy between them, which creates an eight form. The duality is interwoven and becomes infinite movement.
Damn. Man,
and it is the pattern of everything. It is the pattern of everything. That same energy.
Yes.
Energy and particle. Energy and particle all work for each other.
Yeah.
During the process, it's always a process of duality. And it's just amazing.
It's not every day I can say I get like that altered state feeling just from a conversation. But you guys, man, like this synergy is unreal. Whenever this Corona ends, we just got to get together. We're going to just make music and talk and just fucking vibe it out because this is wild. Like,
have you already, did they already vaccinate you?
We're still on a wait list because, there's like two different versions of it. And then we get the second one. So I wasn't in the system the first time, so I had to go register and wait. Now it's just kind of like a wait period.
Okay.
Because the way it's going now is when you take it, you got to take it 2 weeks later, the second dose, and that dose is what's knocking people on their ass. Like they say, like, we have to take a day off because some people can't get out of bed. They're sore. So we're kind of like trying to overlap it. That way the whole team's not down for one day. Like, shit, guys, what do we do now?
Yeah, you don't want everyone to be down, so...
Exactly. So they're kind of waiting it out.
Well, let's just say that when, at least on my part, when I'm vaccinated, and once you get it, maybe we can really make this happen on a physical level.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Whatever you guys feel safe with. Like I said, I definitely totally agree with not putting this into your guys' field because it is what it is. I'm around these people every day.
Yeah, and I know two people from my wife's family who today, I was told, are sick with corona.
Yeah, and it's a serious thing.
But the good news is, by the way, that apparently the strain from South Africa and the strain from the UK are both not resilient, if that's the right word to use,
against the vaccine. Still works.
The vaccine still works, and no less, apparently, the same way.
Yep. Yeah, it's been looking pretty good. That's why, there's like that whole middle gray area where like, it came out way too fast. But when we look into the research, they actually use a technology that's been used for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, they snapped the finger and here it is. It was just like, I think it was the way the domino and the cards, if you will, fell into the hand. So that's why I think there's that it's understandable pull. But when we're looking at the statistics now, there's like a 6% that respond very negatively, and that's why, you know, some people say, oh, well, if the benefits outweigh the risks, why are we putting those 6% at jeopardy? But it's like you're saying, you know, we have these two new mutations that this is still fighting against. It's a pretty good ball game, you know?
Yeah.
It's definitely something that can help more than just let it still, like, reek like a fire, right?
Yes, and it is bad. But, yeah, the fact that it works on it,
yeah,
I think
incredible.
that's brilliant.
You know, this thing mutates. It's a dangerous thing to imagine. Like, oh, this thing can mutate every second of the day, and here we are still fighting it. Yeah, it's incredible. And it just goes to show how far we've come medically, I think, in that world where, imagine if this was like back in the day, right, like that bubonic plague.
Right.
Can you imagine if Corona was back then, too? It would be a still decimating number. But I think we have stronger immunity today, obviously. We have stronger technology. Then, yeah, we still got some of the society that, you know, walk around like, hey, you know, without a mask and then they get sick, as we see on the news. But
I would say one of the first people, I think, in Colorado that got sick from it.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. Like, I was
wow.
one of the first people who actually, you know, I had coronavirus. Both my wife and I, and my brother, and my wife's mom.
Dang, do you want to share, like, your overall day-to-day or the symptoms, how long it lasted? Did you
It lasted
faster,
about
you know?
a week plus or something like that. No. For me, actually, it lasted for like a little less than a week. But for my brother, it lasted for like almost a month.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that does sound brutal.
But he's got some other serious problems. I'm guessing he doesn't necessarily share what his problems are. For whatever reasons, but you know, I'm not going to dig into it. But yeah, I think he's got basically certain problems that kind of prolonged the effects.
Yeah, he like what they call it, like when their immunity is just a little weaker. Like I have a relative.
Immunocompromised, or
maybe, yeah.
Slightly more than others.
Yeah.
I guess, but anyways, yeah, it took 4 weeks, but then he finally recovered. Thankfully, he came out of it okay.
Thankfully, yeah. Well, there we go.
Yeah. Otherwise, I am behaving myself. You know, we all are. I'm behaving myself.
Yeah.
I usually work, like this last couple of weeks. I've been working outside. Just outside, me and one more person, and that is it.
Yeah.
And then
there you go.
and then I just come home, and then I don't do anything else other than that. So that's the reality of that. So.
Well, hey, look what we're doing now. This is definitely a whole huge world you guys have created with this podcast. It goes to show that, yeah, we may be bunkered down and isolating, but we're connecting. Look at that. I mean, like what was it, 50 or even less than that years ago, we couldn't do what we're doing right now. We would literally just be stuck in our house, you know, in silence with a radio on, you know, and that's it. Which, gosh, I can imagine the psyche of that going a little more insane, because it is a trap, but like I think it's a necessary for growth, right? We have to learn how to reconnect with ourselves and not be so in tune with this day-to-day stimuli. And like I love how you just went out, you know, you worked and you proved that it's still possible, right? Like we come home to this, we're proving there's still so much we can take from all this, you know?
Oh, shoot. Absolutely, man. I mean, this is exactly what you're talking about right now. The best example that I have for that would be just remember, like, opening the door to your house and walking outside and just looking at the sky, looking at all these birds. All of a sudden, there's more of them and different kinds. And then you look at the water. The water is clean, and it's like so many things just changed. The air. That's what I remember. The air just smelled so much better.
I remember this was like a topic a couple more months when it was more severe. But you guys heard how like the smog, where like the Himalayas were lifted, where people like in India can see it for the first time in like 30 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And then like you see the dolphins were returning to the rivers in Venice. Like there's a lot of this like the snapshot where it was chaos, but it allowed nature to recover in such a way where I'm not sure where you guys sit on that whole like the global warming or we've sped up its destruction, but nature
it's there. It's there, no doubt. We are
like
also
that
people of science.
Like that 8 months, Gaia did her duty and was like, here we are. And like, I think they even showed that like the ozone damage, it kind of slowed down to the point where like if they were giving it a number, right, they'd be like, yeah, you know, this gave 10 more years. And you're hearing that, you're like, holy shit, she's telling us just 8 months of the whole world, calming it down a little bit. Let our ozone breathe for 10 more years. It kind of does. At least to me, I'm like, all right, what can we do as a society to fucking keep that going without a virus? Like, can we have a day where the globe just agrees, yeah, let's not ride the train today. Let's not use steam engines. Let's not pollute with our factories. Let's just shut everything off for a day and let's have it called like True Earth Day. Like that one day, imagine if we did it once a year, it would do a lot of change because we're seeing it now. Like a lot of these species coming back that haven't, the smog being lifted. I mean, even in Denver, it was noticeable where that smog was just gone. And we're like, how? Just 8 months? Come on, guys, we can do this, right? So it's beautiful. It is. It's like I guess a double-edged sword again. You know, it seems bad, but then when you pull the layers back, it's like it's allowing a lot of healing for the earth and us. Like I know during this isolation, I learned a lot about my stuff and like stuff that really at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, you know, this doesn't bother me anymore because it shouldn't. And it took being in isolation and being cut off to kind of find that breadcrumb trail back to our being. And I think that's the thing where music can step in because we can tell our story, but like music is that universal language where you can bounce the MP3 out in the world and some person millions of miles away would hear it and kind of feel something. Like what you guys said when you listened to that track, you felt it. You knew my story. I didn't even have to explain it. It's like it's a beautiful thing.
Connecting beyond words.
It totally is. It's heavy stuff, I'm telling you. That's I just wish we had a little bit more of that, that's all. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we need to choose it now intentionally. This is what it's all about. And I think all the uproar that we are seeing right now, you know, a lot of, you've mentioned healing. Healing means wounds. There's a lot of wounds that are coming up to the surface right now. And it comes down to the decision that we make, to what story do we choose to play out. And if we start, each and every one of us, take the initiation and to say, okay, I am responsible of what's going on in my life. And I can, you know, it doesn't even have to be globally. I decide that every other Monday, I'm not driving the car. Sunday, sorry. Let's say Sunday, okay? I'm not driving the car. Every other Sunday, I'm taking a day off from running to the store. You know, I'm just going out to nature every other Sunday. You know, each of us can make these small decisions. Or in the evening, every Wednesday night, instead of watching the news or television, I'm going to have television shut off. And I'm going to just listen to music. Or listen to the sounds that come from my body. Or, you know, take that do it with intention, you know. We are moving into becoming more an intentional community, I would say. You know, let's say that a unified community, I see it, I want it, I'm working to make it possible, but this would take more time. I think that right now we are moving into an intentional community, is where we understand, okay, I have the power to change, and I'm stepping into it, even if it's one step at a time.
Oof. Like, see that right there? Like, you have that visionary power, right? Like, you can see it all playing out. And I love how you said that intention. Like, it's an internal intention. Like, yeah, the external world we can may cut off, but nothing's cutting off from our internal world. And I think if we build off that, we might see each other in there now and then. You know, I mean, at least we've proved it in this, like, podcast we're talking about right now. We have these very similar linkages that we can't even explain. I think it's with intent, that key word. You know, as long as we all have that intention, there ain't no stopping us, right? There's no stopping this growth. There's no stopping this merry-go-round of life, if you want to call it. You know, it's a thing we need to hold on and embrace. And I think that's, again, in society, we're at that time right now where it's trialing people. Like, a lot of them are succumbing to that fear and insecurity where it's like, no, you know, just feel your intuition, reconnect with it, and know that's it, and have that intention. And, like, that's why I love words. You know, you can wake up every morning and just say to yourself, you know, today's going to be a good day, let's say. You just start small. Like, you know what, today I deserve to love myself. And that's all where it begins. You know, the minute you give yourself that rope, you can climb out. And I think a lot of people today, through media, you know, and social stuff, they're manipulated into this, no, you can't, you're stuck. Where it's like, no, you know, like, what's stuck? Because where are we going to go? You know? But And that's why I think stuff like this is crucial, like music, art, all these creative flux of just unity can remind people, even if it's subliminal, like, I'm not sure about you guys, but you can be like laying down just in another reality, listening to some music, and you're like, holy crap, like the patterns you're seeing, the emotions you're feeling, you wouldn't have gotten that without that track that you listened to at that moment. And I think it's intent. Like our consciousness was probably like, I need something, I'm going to start paying attention to it, and then you start finding these breadcrumbs. So it's a very unique scenario. I love how you use that word intent, because I fully agree that it's with intent.
It all starts with intent.
Yes. Like, if anything, that should be the one magic we all can confirm, right? It's like, intention. What is this? What's this little thing that just happens when enough people put their mind and heart and spirit to it, and it aligns and forges this path? It's crazy.
I completely agree, man. Sorry, Sagy and I here are drifting into another world here for a second.
Yes. Oh man, are you guys having a little duet right now?
Yeah. This is how we open and close every show.
Oh, yes.
Stay with us.
Wow.
I heard you exhaling with us. That was wonderful, Robert. Thank you.
It was just, I thank you guys. It's speechless.
Look, I know it'll sound like garbage through the phone, but once it is aired, or actually you're gonna get it before it's aired. I'm gonna send you an MP3.
Ooh, what?
Yeah,
A special little treat?
Yeah, just for you, man. No, I just want you
man.
to hear how good this is, and everything is just coming through really nicely in the studio here, so I think you'll appreciate that better. But with that being said, Robert, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I am extremely grateful. This has been one hell of an episode.
Yeah, man, likewise, guys.
Yeah, seriously. I have a feeling that when this is over with, we'll be able to get together. We're gonna make this a thing. 'Cause I think something really special happened here tonight. At least that's how I feel.
I agree. It's like, it's not every day you can call people your brothers, but if there's something going on where we need to explore it. And I don't know. I appreciate the time you guys put to and inviting me in. It's just, it's like I get to be in your guys' world for a little bit. It's without words. You guys explained it in your tune at the end.
Oh, thank you. It's been an awesome pleasure and honor to connect with you, and it was really a beautiful connection right now. This episode, this hour and a half, a beautiful flow of thoughts, energy, sharing, perspectives, enriching each other, empowering. I love this word.
Empowering is huge.
Yeah, it's really, we stick with empowering as a word for this podcast, and we find another sting to attach to it.
Yeah.
Empower station, empower. We can let it. We can see what comes out.
Empowering ourselves, empowering others. We have to reflect something. And hopefully that what we're trying to do here reflects back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, reflects in the same type of positive energy.
Well, I could definitely say I feel it, you know, like the amount of healing I felt from this. It's like, I definitely want to hear from you guys again, you know, even if it's just off podcast, just casual, like, it's not every day you can connect like this. I definitely feel like positivity and just a flurl of energy from your guys' voice alone. So I can only imagine the meeting, right? That energy exchange is going to be so surreal. It's like, woo! But cool, you know?
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. My absolute pleasure. I appreciate it, man. So we shall be in touch. Thank you all very much for tuning in.
Thank you, Robert.
We will see you next time. Thank you, Robert.
All right, yeah, you guys have a good night and be safe. Until next time.
Till next
You
time.
too, sir. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Sending virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs to you, buddy.
All right, guys.
Cheers.
See ya.